Another question from our studio. And sir, where are you from?
Hello, I'm from Missouri, in the Diocese of Jefferson City, Missouri, actually from Columbia, Missouri.
Okay, and your question?
Well, let me say a few thoughts here. As a world traveler and a convert to Catholicism, seeing the extent of the Catholic Church around the world really was an inspiration to me. And also interest in history, and as a physician, the development of medicine through the Catholic Church. I think you've got the perfect evangelism tool here, and I congratulate you and thank you very much for it, and I hope it really gets a widespread showing both here in the States and overseas also.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, just address the issue you raise about science and medicine in relation to the faith, because one thing that really bugs me is this constant claim that we're the enemy of science, that faith and science are implacable foes. We filmed outside of Tucson at the Vatican Observatory, way up in the mountains outside of Tucson, is this state-of-the-art observatory. And at that site, I developed Joseph Ratzinger's argument for God's existence, which is based upon the intelligibility of the world. Every scientist has to assume, and it's a kind of mystical intuition, that the world is intelligible. Psychology wouldn't get off the ground unless the psyche had a logos attached to it. It was intelligible. No astronomer would get off the ground unless he thought that the heavens had some kind of order and structure. And Ratzinger's point is this universal intelligibility speaks to a great intelligence, which has thought the world into being. His point there is that at the deepest level, science and faith are one, that they come together as brothers or as sisters, because there's a mystical intuition behind the sciences about this great intelligence that gives rise to intelligibility. And so I wanted to make that point as clearly as I could in the series, that faith and reason are not opponents. We're the great both and religion, faith and reason, faith and science. And I wanted that to come through because you hear it all the time today in the popular culture.
One of the things that I always loved is C.S. Lewis's argument that science depends on faith.
Yeah.
Science
quite right.
cannot prove the scientific method.
Its own ground.
Because to do so, you'd have to do the scientific method. And to prove something by itself is tautology.
That's right.
You break the rules of logic. And so you assume and believe that the scientific method is true and is well-grounded, but you can't prove it.
No, and you also have to assume that the world you're going to go out to meet is intelligible.
Right.
That's a mystical intuition. And we say, of course, in the beginning was the Word. And all things came to be through the Word, which means they're not dumbly there, they're intelligibly there. They're marked by an intelligence. And that's why I would argue with many others that it's no accident that the Western sciences emerged when and where they did, namely out of a Christian thought matrix. Because it's this great doctrine of creation, which says the world isn't God. Therefore, you don't worship the world. You can experiment on the world. You can analyze it. But more to it, the world is marked in every nook and cranny by intelligibility. Those are both corollaries of the more fundamental doctrine of creation.
Right.
And that's why this theology stands behind the sciences. Also, how many people know, I find on my internet ministry, no one knows this. The formulator of the Big Bang theory of cosmic origins was a priest.
Jesuit priest.
Yeah, it was a Jesuit priest, Georges Lemaitre. So we found a photograph of him in his Roman collar with the blackboard filled with equations. Another photo of Lemaitre in his collar next to Einstein. He had to convince Einstein that this was right. Einstein was resisting him. How many people know that? That a Catholic priest formulated the great theory that everyone holds today of cosmic origins.
And he was able to teach Einstein.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
that's one of the ironies.
Right.
The Catholic priest taught Einstein about the Big Bang theory.
But every day you hear, faith, reason, implacable opponents. Not in the Catholic understanding, I wanted that to come through, so that's why we filmed up in Tucson.
Even the father of genetics was an Augustinian priest.
That's right.
In Austria.
Yeah.
So it's there's a very important role of science in Catholic life, and all of our universities, our high schools teach science Just the other day, we celebrated Saint Albert the Great,
that's
the
right.
patron saint of scientists,
Yeah.
who was teaching science at the earliest universities of Europe.
That's right. He was doing cutting-edge science in his day. Now, we look back now and say, well, primitive here and there. Well, sure, but it was the cutting-edge science of his day. And he saw no contradiction between being a Dominican friar and being a scientist.
Right.
And the line from Albert the Great to Georges Lemaitre is a direct line.
Yep.
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 So that's a story that needs to be told, I think, over and over again.
Yes, absolutely. Might have to do more documentaries just on that.
No, quite right. Yeah. Yeah.